Okay, we're doing quotes from Holy Grail Wisdom Quotes by M.P. Rogers. First guy is Hans Moravec. Moravec is a computer programmer. He was very involved in robotics. He made some big statements. He said that it's very easy to program a computer to do things like calculus and mathematics, which we thought would be difficult. But it's extremely difficult to make a computer move in smooth, coordinated fashion like a human does. He said that we have a Stone Age brain, but we don't live in the Stone Age anymore. We're fitted by evolution to live in tribal villages of up to about 200 relatives and friends, finding and hunting for our food. But now we live in cities of millions of strangers, supporting ourselves with unnatural tasks which we have been trained to accomplish, like animals forced to learn circus tricks. With the network of technology, he predicts by 2040, there will be no job that people can do better than robots. I personally think that's totally untrue. I say that from working in the medical business. First of all, things that require a lot of variety of motion, like, let's say the job of a janitor, to clean the bathroom. You have to have a lot of coordination, move into small spaces to do all that, so that'd be pretty hard to change. Easy job to change is something where there's a stereotype repeated pattern of steps every time, like an ATM machine. That's easy to replace the person who only does that. Also, I do imaging guided spine surgery, imaging guided interventional radiology, which is imaging guided surgery of the human body basically, and head and neck, all kinds of stuff. Procedures, you get yourself into lots of weird situations. There's no way a machine could do that. The patient's moving, there's artifacts on the film. You have to adjust it to their respiration. You have to coach them verbally on how to cooperate. All of that stuff is highly variable. Things that require social skills, interpersonal action. And then you also run into things, what about the things where there's ethical dilemmas? You need Christian ethics for those. And there's a lot of them, Do I tell the patient the truth that they can eat a low-fat vegan diet, or do I just pop a couple stents into them, send them for open heart surgery? So I think they exaggerate what they can do with their robots. And they also show robots that kind of look like a woman, but you take the mask off, it's made out of metal. A woman's nice and soft. Those robots are not soft, Anyways, next person in our quote list is Desmond Morris. He's a zoologist and an author. He wrote this book called The Naked Ape. His big statement was there's 193 living species of monkeys and apes. 192 are covered all over with hair, but humans are the naked ape, don't have that much hair. This guy got real famous for his book, but I've gone back and read his quotes and stuff. I think he's mostly kind of a lightweight. He tries he basically pushes really hard that we're like apes, but we're not that much like apes. I think he's FOS, and I think he's a lightweight, all right? But just so you know, you'll hear of him if you read zoology stuff, and he'll use a bunch of fancy words that basically say, you're just like an ape. And it's like, no, we're not, pal. You're full of it, Van Morrison was the great Irish singer. He sings songs like Brand New Day is my favorite song from him. He's said music is spiritual, but the music business is not. Yeah, I think that's about right. Country music, Irish music, it's basically Christian music, John Mortimer. The country music's a little more Scots-Irish, whereas Irish music is just more Catholic. Scots-Irish is a little bit Calvinist, a little bit Presbyterian. John Mortimer, he's an English writer. He lived from 1923 to 2009. He said, there's more of yourself in a book than a play. That's why we know all about Charles Dickens, but not much about Shakespeare. I think Shakespeare was actually a Catholic, and at that time it was not popular in England to be a Catholic, so he was keeping it hidden. This was sort of in the early days, not that early, but kind of still early days of Protestant retakeover of England. So he was a Catholic. That's probably why he was so good. John Mortimer continues, the only rule in writing that I have found to have validity is not to bore yourself. So there's truth in that. If you're having fun writing, then it's more likely the reader's going to have fun when they read it. And if you're cracking up, it's more likely the reader's going to crack up. But when you're cracking up, that usually means you're on the border of what you can comfortably or safely say. So you got to use your judgment on that. Next line, suppose that writers should, in a way, feel flattered by censorship laws. They show a primitive fear and dread at the fearful magic of print. And that's kind of how I feel. It's like my books are shadow banned and ostracized. My YouTube channel is shadow banned and ostracized. And I actually think it's probably a compliment. And it's good in a couple ways. It's good in the sense that If it wasn't, and I really was as famous as I should be, Big Pharma would probably kill me. So I don't want that to happen, number one. Let's see. I say the law seems to be a sort of maze through which a client must be led to safety, a collection of reefs and rocks and underwater hazards through which he must be guided. Okay, that's the quotes for this session. Hope you found them helpful.